Tonight, just a 90-mile stretch of water, but a giant ideological gap that is beginning to close after more than 50 years. Robert Moore reports from Cuba.
I was very, very happy. That was a present of Christmas for me.
Money, money, money. Chris Choi meets Bjorn Ulvaeus to find out why Sweden is going cashless.
It seems to me that a lot of people want their crisp bills for nostalgic reasons, which is very interesting.
And Martin Geisler asking whether politics back home matters to the British expats of the Costa del Sol.
I'm in limbo. I can't have a vote in the UK, and also I'm not allowed to vote in the national elections in Spain.
Good evening and welcome to On Assignment. This month we bring the program to you from Washington, D.C., the location of recent discussions to try to end almost half a century of distrust and hostility between America and its near neighbor, the communist island of Cuba. Since the Cuban leader Fidel Castro handed power to his brother Raul, there's been a sort of Cuban thaw. A huge shift now offers hope to thousands of families separated by Cuban and American restrictive travel and trade policies that some feel have held Cuba back. Robert Moore traveled to the island to speak to people to find out what a change in relations would mean.
Cuba is an island of contradictions. Yes, there is an immense sense of national pride. But there is also knowledge that life is lived in the shadows of isolation, of economic deprivation, and most painfully, of families still divided between those who fled the revolution and those who stayed, and who are still dealing with its consequences. The Cuba of today was forged out of a tumultuous history of colonization and conflict. Corruption and dictatorship preceded the revolution of 1959 that turned this Caribbean archipelago into a communist nation.
If at any time the communist buildup in Cuba were to endanger or interfere with our security in any way, then this country will do whatever must be done to protect its own security.
Cuba became a high-stakes battleground between the superpowers. A Cold War furnace that at one point took the world to the very brink of Armageddon. Today, it is a very different story. The younger Castro brother Raul is at the helm. And finally, America and Cuba are on the brink of an historic reconciliation. And economic change feels imminent.
I was very, very happy. That was a present of Christmas for me.
One woman who captures this new sense of optimism is Nidialis Acosta, who runs a business repairing the classic American cars that are one of the most distinctive features of Cuba. They remain a symbol of a nation caught in a time warp, people forced to cling to the old because of a US trade embargo imposed half a century ago. A policy that has caused significant hardship. Nidialis now has the prospect of being able to import spare parts from America and of starting a private business outside of state control. From now on, she tells me, it will be very different, with lots of improvements for Cuban entrepreneurs like me, but also for everyone else. Reform from within and a new opening with America is a tantalizing combination. Certainly Havana has much to gain from the new diplomatic movement. To spend any time in this city, with its culture of dance and music, is to see a creative, literate people yearning to join the 21st century. This is a land where the mobile phone is a luxury. where the internet is a privilege controlled by the state, where people of all generations still debate face-to-face, not online. But what about elsewhere in Cuba? For 80% of people live outside of the capital.
To find out what ordinary Cubans make of this deal, I've come out here west of Havana to the hill country and tobacco farms. And I have a very simple question. I want to know what the rural poor and the farm workers, those for whom this revolution was fought, whether they welcome these developments. Do they see it as just another twist in the tortuous relationship between America and Cuba? Or do they believe it will change this island and their lives forever?
I want to come back and see
The three-generation Vasquez family have a sense of keen anticipation, thrilled that the momentum is building towards ending the economic blockade they've endured all their lives.
Bueno, esperamos eso, que cuando entren en el negocio sea beneficiable para ellos y para nosotros. Eso es lo que hace falta. Eso es lo que hace falta en el mundo, comprendernos y que haya negocio y no haya guerra.
The young boys have dreams too.
Cuando yo sea grande, quiero ser tractorista.
Even of one day traveling to lands they've heard so much about.
Venezuela, Estados Unidos, Inglaterra.
And what would you imagine that America actually looks like?
Dos tractores. Dos tractores bien grandes.
A country of tractors, very big tractors, Leandro replies. The great passion in Cuba is baseball. It is the sport the revolution has endorsed, and is played out in faded stadiums and on almost every street corner. Here, the debate is whether normalization would mean the top players leaving Cuba for the US in pursuit of fame and wealth. Chiara Gonzalez is a local sports reporter. She dreams of a Cuba that may soon enjoy an open economy, and she lists what she wants to see the most.
Una Cuba con internet, una Cuba con las tiendas llenas de cosas, una Cuba con precios asequibles y salarios que valgan o sea, que verdaderamente respondan a lo que la gente está, que se correspondan con lo que la gente está trabajando.
But probe beneath the surface, and almost every family here has a darker story to tell.
This island, defiant and resilient though it is, also suffers from an open wound. For hundreds of thousands of Cubans have fled the communist regime, making the perilous journey 90 miles over the Florida Straits to America. It is an exodus that has divided families and caused untold anguish.
Bueno, eso es lo más grande que hay, lo más triste. No quiero hablar mucho porque me da ganas de llorar.
Irene is 89 years old, and for much of her life she has endured an enforced separation from those she loves the most. Her son and two granddaughters fled Cuba for Miami, but with another son still in Havana, she opted to stay, now reduced to living in a world of memories and old photographs.
Yo pienso en ellos todo el tiempo, todo el tiempo. Yo me acuesto pensando en ellos, me levanto pensando en ellos, y el día entero pensando en ellos. Y días que me paso el día llorando, porque yo hablar de ellos. No quiero llorar así más allá que aquí, pero para mí es lo más grande del mundo.
The granddaughter she has hardly known is Yene Ramos, living in Florida. We showed her our interview with the grandmother she misses so much.
I don't want to see my people suffering. You see, I don't want to see my grandmother living in a situation that she lived.
Yene is part of a large, million-strong Cuban-American diaspora living in Florida, many of whom have a loathing for the regime in their homeland.
I hate them a lot for all the suffering that they have caused to all the Cubans. Not only my family, many Cubans that I know, they have lost their children in the middle of the sea. Many Cubans that they couldn't come back to Cuba to see her mother after they died, not even to go to the funeral. Could you believe that? How can you be so selfish and how can you be so bad person to do that to your own country?
Undoubtedly a revolutionary dictatorship, one-party rule and US sanctions all combined to exact a huge cost on Cuba, creating a tragic, multi-generational rift. But those who have stayed still manage to have rich lives. Not in material terms, but by treasuring friendships and embracing a vibrant culture that politics cannot touch.
Nosotros estamos conscientes de la hostilidad.
This man tells me it's places like this where amid the difficulty, friendship allows us to feel good. This is how we've enjoyed the situation over 50 years. For Irene, so missing her family over the horizon, and for her granddaughter 90 miles away and thinking of her homeland, change is welcome. It is half a century too late, but at least, unmistakably, it is coming.
Talks between the US and Cuba are ongoing. And now to Sweden, widely regarded as the most cashless society on earth. There you'll find bars that won't take cash and banks that don't have any. And most surprising of all, the member of ABBA who wrote the song Money, Money, Money no longer believes in the coins and notes. Chris Troy travelled to Stockholm to meet him.
Sweden is heading into uncharted waters, moving further and faster towards a society without cash. Here, 4 out of 5 transactions are now electronic. It's led to a 20% saving on the costs of handling and counting old-style money. 5 of Sweden's 6 big banks have branches without cash. I'm here to see who benefits and who could lose. In Stockholm's 125-year-old indoor market, many think nothing of going shopping without any cash in their pockets at all.
I think in 10 years we won't have cash anymore. The reason why we use cards is I think it's safer, easier, and in Sweden they accept cards pretty much everywhere.
1 apple. Can I take this? Thank you very much. On my card. 7 kron. That's less than 60p.
Shoppers buying small value items like this in the UK frequently face surcharges for using cards. Here, I didn't see that once. Across town, one of Sweden's biggest celebrities is spearheading the changes. The ABBA star that co-founded this museum has made it cashless.
It's quicker, it's easier, and I very rarely see people paying with cash in Stockholm.
Nowadays, Bjorn Olvies believes that cash is as outdated as the 70s satin blouses that once propelled him to stardom. When his son was burgled, he decided money was a problem. Now he believes Sweden will be effectively cashless within a decade. The man who wrote the hit song Money, Money, Money has drastically changed his views on it.
It was a good thing I wrote that song so many years ago.
Wouldn't work now.
No, it wouldn't work now.
Isn't the problem that if a transaction is cashless, there is that digital trail of evidence, everybody knows what you've been spending on?
What is it that you actually want to conceal? What is it that you want to buy that we don't know about?
It's a potentially embarrassing question to ask, isn't it? Say your partner didn't like you gambling. If you do it with cash, they wouldn't know. And if you do it with a card, just in theory, they would know.
Oh, what a tragedy.
What
a powerful argument.
They'd also know when you've been to the pub.
Yes. Well, you have to live with that, I guess.
But far less acceptable is the prospect of having to live with increased cybercrime.
I've looked at some figures that show that even here in Sweden, ID fraud is increasing as cashless transactions rise.
We are living with that problem now. We have to deal with it anyway.
So this is a challenge.
There's no reason to keep cash just because of that.
This city seems to be shrugging off fears about cashless transactions leading to less privacy and more fraud. And the ultimate example of that is someone for whom every bit of money is vital.
Good morning.
Hello. Can I get one using my card?
Sure you can.
This is Norbert, who is the Swedish equivalent of a big issue seller. And as you can see, he is equipped with smartphone and the card reader. I'll put it in there. There's even a little sign on his card saying, cards taken.
No, it's done.
I would say it has been a success because each vendor has increased their own sales as much as up to 59%.
This whole thing is based on several layers of trust. Trust in the technology, in the banking system, in the sellers. Do you think that level of trust is peculiarly Swedish?
I do think so. You have the trust to walk up to a vendor with your credit card. You haven't really got a big problem with that. I think that's typical for Swedes, actually.
One of the most convincing claims is that less cash equals less street crime. I'm meeting one of the city's most experienced police officers, and he says the truth is a bit more complex.
The muggings are still there, of course, but they don't get any money because the Swedes don't carry money. They carry credit cards.
But that's still a problem, isn't it, if they get your credit card and force you to give your number?
Yeah, that's the bad thing of it. They try to force you to leave your PIN code.
So when people who are in favour of a cashless society tell me that it reduces crime, that's not really the full story.
How it difference crime.
It shifts it rather than ends it.
Yeah, it's to get another face.
Stockholm's nightlife is transforming, with plenty of places like this that simply don't take cash. Here, if someone asks for your number in a bar, it's likely to be your PIN number. And even where it is still welcomed, good old-fashioned money is in steep decline.
At various times I've worked in bars, and one of my concerns is what happens to the people that rely on cash tips when you're in a cashless society?
So if you get 10 crowns and a 5 crown, you buy, okay, you can keep it. But if you take on a card...
So in terms of Stockholm moving to a cashless society,
Yeah.
the people that lose out are people that rely on tips.
Yeah, exactly.
But some who rely on cash donations have taken action. This church, in the centre of Stockholm, is mixing tradition with technology.
This is it, the electronic equivalent of the old church collection plate. Will you just show me it?
Yeah. If you go to the Sunday service and you don't have any cash in your pocket, but you always have your credit card with you, you can go to this machine after the service and give a gift to our church. You choose the Sunday collect here, and then you use your credit card.
Have the congregation welcomed it?
Yes, absolutely.
Even the older members?
It's more for the younger persons.
It seems to me that a lot of people want their crisp bills for nostalgic reasons, which is very interesting.
The very first ones in Europe were invented right here in Sweden.
So we should be the first one to leave it as well.
But back in the market, there remains some stubborn resistance to that cashless revolution.
I'm a cash man.
You're a cash payer?
I'm a cash man, yes.
Why?
I prefer it. I have better control of my money that way, I think.
A lot of people want Stockholm to become a cashless society. You've heard this.
I know.
What's your response to that?
I hate that. Cash is king.
Well, my card has taken quite a bashing. But when you think about things like the drive of finance, convenience, technology, where Stockholm has gone, it seems inevitable to me that the rest of us will soon follow.
All across Europe, the move to a more cashless society will soon reach a milestone. A new EU regulation will limit debit card charges, and that's expected to boost electronic transactions everywhere. Next, the upcoming general election is set to be one of the most closely fought contests in recent memory. And it's not just votes in the UK that are going to be counted. millions of British expats living all over the world have the potential to influence the result. Martin Geisler travelled to the Costa del Sol to find out what Brits living there think about politics back home.
For more than 50 years, the Costa del Sol has been a magnet for British sun-seekers. Many have settled here full-time. It's warm and it's welcoming. Worries back home, like a looming general election, seem a long, long way away. 5.5 million Brits have opted for the expat life around the world. 1 million of them live here in Spain. They have the potential to influence the outcome of elections at Westminster, but few of them have registered to vote. Many can't vote, and some don't even seem to care. This is Olympic boxer Tom. He fought for his country in London 2012. Now he's taken the well-trodden path to sunny Spain, swapping Merseyside for this boxing gym in Marbella.
It's like my second home really, I love it, and you know, it's I want to live here for the rest of my life. I like it that much. I've just settled in really well.
The Electoral Commission want expats like Tom to vote, but politics are the last thing on his mind.
You going to vote?
No.
No interest?
Nah, I've never, I don't understand all the politics, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't even understand it.
Tom is by no means alone in this electoral apathy. Of all the British migrants living right across the globe, only 20,000 had registered to vote at the last count. Along the coast in Estepona, these Brits are interested in the election. Some live here full-time, others are on holiday, and then there are the second homeowners who spend their winters in warmer climes.
That's such a good try.
They're all citizens of Europe, taking advantage of the same freedom of movement that allows people from the continent to settle in the UK.
Who are you going to vote for?
Probably the SNP.
Do you think it's right that you should be able to influence the government of a country that you don't live in anymore?
That's where our main income comes from. It's the pensions and that, so it does affect us.
Are you going to vote?
Yes.
Can I ask who you're going to vote for?
Undecided at the moment.
Well, Zero. It's not a bad life out here in the winter sun, but it might not last forever. If the Tories keep power in May, they've promised an in-out referendum on Europe. And if Britain votes to leave the EU, what's going to become of these Brits abroad?
Those who live here permanently, like Barry in nearby Benalmádena, enjoy access to Spanish healthcare as part of our membership of the EU. But that could change, depending on the outcome of the election back home in May.
And this is your place?
This is our place, yeah.
It might impact our life with healthcare, because obviously they might rescind that. So, well, we're not going to do a reciprocal agreement anymore with the UK, and then we'd all have to take out some form of private healthcare, which would be probably impossible at our ages, you know.
So what would you do? Would you have to go home?
Well, we'd have to move somewhere.
But as a long-term expat, Barry can't influence the outcome of the election or any referendum that might follow. Current rules mean those who've lived outside the UK for more than 15 years can't vote back home.
I'm in limbo. I can't have a vote in the UK. And also, I'm not allowed to vote in the national elections in Spain. So therefore, I can't vote anywhere.
Nobody represents you?
Nobody. All I have to do is sit and watch and listen and keep my fingers crossed. I've got no say.
But not everyone's worried about the repercussions of a referendum. These expats share a keen interest in politics, and they reckon their future here is secure.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce Martin today.
They're all members of the local branch of Conservatives Abroad, and I'm here to meet their chairman, Alex Radford.
And this election, I guess, more than any other in the recent past, could affect the way life has led here, do you think?
It's certainly an issue that's becoming more and more prominent as the election gets closer. I don't think we've had that debate at the moment in the UK about what would happen if there was an in-out referendum and there was a vote to leave the EU. So you know, that debate's to come, I'm sure. But you know, at the moment, yes, the people are slightly concerned. They want to know what's going to happen. There's a bit of uncertainty. But by and large, I think the UK population in Spain is very important. There's more than 1 million Brits who own property from Gibraltar all the way to Barcelona, beyond and inland. So the Brits is very important to Spain. Most of our members are really quite pro-European. They love our country and they love Spain.
Most Brits here in Andalusia seem happy to leave the big debate on Europe until, well, mañana. But as recent events in Greece have shown, it's impossible to predict what might lie over the horizon.
A view of election madness from the calm of the Costa. On Assignment will return with a new episode on Tuesday the 24th of March with stories from around the world. In the meantime, from Washington, a very good night and thank you for watching.